Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to our weekly show, Top 8, and we're going to be discussing all the big stuff that happened in the world of movies. And joining me today is the boys as usual, Connor.
Hey.
Benny.
Hello.
What have you guys been watching this week?
The only thing I really had a chance to see, other than the Life and Power Rangers, which we watched together, was Dave Chappelle's new show.
Finally back.
He's finally back. Yeah.
So it's like a narrative show or it's stand-up?
No,
or?
it's his stand-up, and each show is different area. So I can't remember what the first one is, but the second one's in Austin, Texas. I'm halfway through that one at the moment. Still funny. That's it. That's really all there is to say about it.
What about you, Benny?
I've still been trying to slog through Iron Fist. It's not going well. I'm slowing down. I'm almost through the third episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you normally burn through these in 24 hours.
I'll generally get through them in the weekend they come out. Yeah, I'd say.
We all saw Life and Power Rangers. We actually went to the Power Rangers premiere. Benny hooked us up. That was heaps fun. Yeah, they did some cool little sort of photo boothy kind of things.
Kept George entertained.
Definitely did. Anyway, let's get into the top 8.
Yeah, excellent. So number 1 is Star Wars related. And so we've got Disney CEO Bob Iger has given more details about the Han Solo standalone film in a press event. The big takeaway was that it will be take place over 6 years. Which is a bit of a departure from previous films.
Yeah, it seems like the standalone films are introducing a new element into the Star Wars storytelling because previously it's always been a linear story over a course of a period of months or weeks. And now with Rogue One, we got Jyn Erso as a little kid and then flash forward 20 years or whatever. So it's interesting that these flavors are coming in. I wonder if they're going to do it in episode 8.
I kind of hope not. I like the time frame of these films. I like that they're kind of insular stories. Like they're just a little story that happened in a short amount of time. The series, of course, spans over many years, but the individual stories in the movies are very much this kind of insulated incident.
I wonder if there'll be another shitty title card.
What is this going to be called?
The Han Solo film.
Have they released that as the official title? The Han Solo film.
Han Solo film. There's a lot of good talent behind this movie that gives us hope, I guess, a new hope. But everything on paper about this thing sounds garbage, I think. Just like a Han Solo origin story, no Harrison Ford. You find out where he gets his name, apparently.
Yeah, and him meeting Chewbacca and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds just like It just sounds like, Anakin Skywalker built C-3PO all over again.
I hope it doesn't go down that path.
Yeah, as I said, a lot of great talent behind the camera and in front of it. It's looking good as it can look, I guess.
What it kind of screams to me is the same kind of failings that you have in a lot of biopics. A lot of movies that try and span 20 years of someone's life and give you the kind of overview and you kind of jump in on specific moments. I hope that that's not what this film is. So we don't go in and be like, this is how we gained the Millennium Falcon, and then shoot forward 2 years and this is where he got his name, or shoot forward 2 years and this is like little moments where you're like, we knew that had to happen, but it doesn't create a story or one that you want to watch in one film.
Do those extra elements and seeing that, does that add anything to the character? And when you were talking just then about how potentially that could go down, like almost like a montage sequence of these things in his life, that sounds like a disaster.
Yeah.
So I hopefully they don't go down that path. Also, another little thing that happened was Woody Harrelson said on Jimmy Fallon he's playing Han Solo's mentor, whose name is Beckett. Now, everyone thought he was going to be playing Gareth Shrike from the extended universe. I think it was at South by Southwest or something, and one of the reporters asked Woody Harrelson, "Are you playing Gareth Shrike in the new Han Solo film?" And he was just like, what is this lady talking about? Like, and he just diverted this question. It was really funny. You should go check out the video. But yeah, interesting. We'll see how the Han Solo film goes, and then they're going into production soon, so we'll be hearing a lot more about it.
I feel like Woody Harrelson should just play Woody Harrelson in that. I feel like he would fit in that universe, that kind of smuggler mentor, so seamlessly just from his real life. I would love to see that.
Are you accusing him of being a smuggler?
I mean, legally, no, but would we be overly surprised?
Stop sitting on the fence, Connor. Say it.
Woody Harrelson's interesting because he does tend to fall into oh, he's playing Woody Harrelson, but then you see something like True Detective, and it's like, wow, this guy's got depth and range as an actor.
Yeah, there he is playing Woody Harrelson, but like with an edge.
Yeah. But I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing because people love seeing him play that character. Like, it's such a cool character. I think it's the reason why, for a time, Hollywood was really enamored with Johnny Depp's kind of character that he often played, these weird and wacky. Now it's
comparing everyone to Johnny Depp.
When was the last time I compared anyone to
Samuel L. Jackson? You're like, Samuel L. Jackson is Johnny Depp. But let's not talk about Woody. What's the next news story, Connor?
A second story is also Star Wars related. I'm not sure if it was in the same press conference, but Bob Iger also confirmed that Leia's role will be unchanged for Episode 8. They said that you will get to say goodbye to that character much in the same way that they had originally envisioned. I mean, I know that there's been a plan for some time to have Leia play a big part in the Resistance and the subsequent Star Wars films, so this is obviously the unfortunate passing of Carrie Fisher in 2016 has obviously kind of left open a hole for that.
So they're killing her off.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds as if that's what they were going to do anyways.
Yeah. Totally. Cool. Perfect. That solves a lot of problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on when they kill her off. Like, if she's meant to die at the end of the, ninth film or whatever it have be. Because I'm not sure about this, but I was under the impression that she was meant to make it into the ninth film, like originally.
Well, I always thought it was going to be 1, 2, 3, Han Solo, Leia, Luke.
Yeah, one movie each. Pop, pop, pop.
And then we don't run into any problems down the track.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're not going down the whole CG thing, because after we saw Peter Cushing's Tarkin come to life in Rogue One, everyone's sort of sitting there going, where do you draw the line with this? How far can you go to recreate a character, somebody who's just died? I don't know, people. I'm glad they're not going down that path, because there's some sort of moral ethic thing that doesn't sit very well with me.
That Cushing thing was such an odd choice. It must have been them just testing the waters to see how people would respond to it, because they probably know that a lot of these older actors are on the way out, and they're like, hey, maybe people will be receptive to us keeping them around. It didn't go that way, though.
No, I think it's a bit of a risk, both on that kind of moral front, particularly more with Carrie Fisher, because it is so fresh in people's minds, but also just from a technical standpoint, it really drew me out of the story. The payoff of having that character in there wasn't nearly as much, or did not equal the kind of, not shock, but just kind of discontent that I had with the fact that this was a weirdly CGI'd character. I couldn't get out of my head, like, this guy's dead. I didn't mind it for, certain films. I understand the need for it. Like, if there's a couple of pickup shots of Carrie Fisher that are CGI, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. But to have an entire characters run in a film be that is just a bit weird.
For me, I didn't even think about Peter Cushing being dead. It was just the CG itself. It's almost there, but the uncanny valley was so deep on that one, because I had that same disconnect. I couldn't actually even register what he was saying in the conversations in those scenes, because I was just like, what the hell am I looking at?
What were they thinking? Yeah, the last thing we need is more Star Wars prequels with shitty, distracting CGI characters.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But it does open up then how they're going to, presumably write her out, I think, in the 8th film. It kind of leads me to another question I had. Do you think that they'll kill off Luke in the next 2 films?
I'll put money on it, yeah.
Yeah. You've been doing an awful lot of betting. George.
I think we think you have a problem. Yeah, in all honesty.
So what is it? What's the tally now? It's $100 that
Batman standalone film. $100 on that Affleck dons the cape. The second one was in the next 30 years. Chris Nolan's going to do another Batman film, and this one is Luke will die at the end of Episode 9.
Okay, so you stand to make a bit of money, but you also stand to lose about $300.
Am I doing this with both of you or just one? Because I've kind of just said it out there, but like, who's actually sort of shook my hand?
No, you've made a contract with the people listening on the podcast.
Anyone who's heard the bet, you feel free to collect your money when the time comes.
Oh man.
I think you're with the Ben Affleck thing. I think you're grossly underestimating how much people enjoy money.
But Ben Affleck is going through a tough time.
Yeah.
There's been some reports about him having, going to rehab. It's sad because he's such a talented guy, and I think it's very commendable of him to come out and be transparent and tell the world. And I wish him all the best.
So you think that will then make him not want to do Batman?
Well, it's pretty obvious that he's had a pretty terrible time working with Warner Brothers. He's announced as Batman director, things fizzle out after he's written a cool script.
Are you suggesting that because of Warner Brothers, he turned to like drugs and
Yes.
whatever else is wrong in his life? I mean, I'm not saying that it's implausible,
No, not at all.
but
Not at all. Not at all. I would never say that.
I'm saying that.
yeah, okay, good.
Warner
Well, at
Brothers,
least we
Warner
have it
Brothers
down.
has done the same to me.
Yeah, that's just about true. All right, number 3. Variety has reported that studios are toying with the idea of allowing access to films for a fee in the comfort of your own home, and not normal films like films that are out in theaters. I probably should clarify.
They've been talking about this for years, though. Like they've been trying to work out a model that works. It's a tough one, and it's inevitable, I'm sure. But it's already kind of happening with some movies. Like they'll release like pay-per-view essentially at the same time they're out in cinemas.
Will they?
There are some movies already doing that.
It makes sense for some of the lower budget ones or things that aren't big. But I'd be interested to see whether they start going for like big name productions. The next any of the Marvel films, like whether those would come out, because they obviously do relatively well at the box office and then have another spike when you can access it at home. I mean, to be honest, Netflix is still doing it, or is doing it now.
But their model has always been on-demand content. So it's different to someone like Fox releasing an X-Men film simultaneously on some kind of streaming platform and in the cinemas. The cinemas are the individuals that get hurt in this whole equation of live streaming or on-demand streaming, simultaneous release dates, etc., etc. So that's a bit sad because there's nothing better than seeing a fantastic film on the big screen. But I think this is inevitable. As Benny said, this has been talked about over the past 5-10 years. So I'd say we'll be seeing this happen and rolled out pretty soon.
See, I still think that there's... I don't necessarily see streaming and the cinema as two kind of opposites, or that they can't coexist. I feel like the theater is still an experience, and I think that there's a lot of movies that I enjoy going to the theater to see. And then there's a lot of films where I enjoy having the access and the demand that, streaming services like Netflix, like Hulu, like Stan provide you. I think there's room in the market for both. I don't know that there is necessarily a market for this on-demand, like whatever's out in film now, you can pay $30 and get it at home. I think people will more than likely rather wait until it's out if they want to see it at home, and the people that still want to see it in theater as an experience will still do that.
I don't know, man. I think if you rolled this out, there would be a lot less attendance in cinemas.
Agreed.
As I said, the people that get hit in this are the cinemas, and then you'll start seeing cinemas die down. And negotiating the deals in distribution is obviously a bit of a minefield, because how does everyone take their cut and whatnot of the film upon release? So I'll be interested to see what the end model ends up being with this kind of service.
Well, what we might end up seeing is a revamp of cinemas, in the sense that they'll have to then, because now you go to the cinemas because you want to see a movie when it's out, presumably. I think it'll have to be really heavy on the service side after this. Like as I said, a lot of people go for an experience as well as, seeing it when it's released. I think they're really going to have to amp up, like, this is an experience. You're getting something more than just access to the film, because we can access most films.
Yeah, the best sound, amazing picture quality.
So, yeah.
Getting a beef burger delivered to you in the cinema.
I was going to say cheap, crappy hot dogs.
This is actually a story that I saw kind of about midweek and I'm really interested in. Brett Ratner says Rotten Tomatoes is killing the movie business. In an EU interview, he said, the worst thing that we have in today's movie culture is Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's the destruction of our business. I have such respect and admiration for film criticism. And then goes on to actually quite a long statement about how he thought that film criticism was very much an art. And then now, like, everyone has access to this kind of weird formula aggregator into Rotten Tomatoes that displaces or kind of misrepresents how people feel about films.
And this is director of X-Men 3, Brett Ratner, yes?
The very same. The very director that I don't think has a film above 69% on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's about...
So he's that kind of director, right?
Yeah.
Because Rotten Tomatoes said it.
Look, this statement from him, and I highly encourage people to read the entire statement, just sounds like someone that's kind of complaining because they're not very good at what they do. I mean, all right, it takes an awful lot of effort and ability to be a director of anything, I think. And, hats off to him for playing the game. But in the grand scheme of things, most of the movies that he has made are not movies that I enjoy. And compared to people in that field, he's not the best at it. Just in my humble opinion.
That is such a burn.
Gauntlet's been thrown down. Connor's coming for you, Brett.
Yeah. Look, he just... Even in his statement, he just keeps saying, like, oh, look, Batman versus Superman, it did really well, like... but it got like shit.
It didn't do very well because that film was supposed to be $1 billion film and they didn't make it.
Okay, that's a weird movie to hang your argument on, Brett, because it's garbage. Like, it's a garbage movie, but it did huge business.
Exactly.
Not as huge as they wanted necessarily.
But it should have done more. I'm sure Warner Brothers, when they put out Batman v Superman, they wanted a $1 billion film. And it made 850 or 900 or something.
Even if you like took away the fact that it didn't do as well as it did, it was still a monetary success. But I feel like his statement was about a good movie is one that makes money. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, because there's a lot of movies that made, zilch that are really good films. And there's a lot of, films that are, kind of universally panned as crap that make tons of money.
I think we can agree that Rotten Tomatoes is doing less damage to the film industry than Brett Ratner himself. But he does.
How am I the one throwing down the gauntlet with you saying things like that?
I just got your back, buddy. He's brings up an interesting point though, in that most people don't really understand what Rotten Tomatoes does exactly, what it means. That it's just kind of aggregating these reviews and showing what the general consensus sort of is. Most people, look up a movie on Google. It's the first thing that comes up. They say, "Oh, it's on 60%. It must just be a crap movie." Which is not true at all. That means it's a divisive movie, which means it could just be an average movie, or it could be a masterpiece that some people hate. It could be like a Terrence Malick movie that some people can't sit through and other people think is the best movie of the year.
That's like a Cure for Wellness. That's on sort of 40%. I think last time I looked, 44%. And I thought that was an amazing film. So just quickly, for those who don't know, Rotten Tomatoes' way it works is that it's sort of like above 50% is... ripe? Fresh?
Yeah.
Ripe. Jesus. I know so much about Rotten Tomatoes.
Strap in, kids, and learn something here.
Or just tomatoes in general, because that's generally how it works.
And Rotten is below 50%.
I think it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then certified fresh is, what, above 90 or something?
Oh, okay. Cool.
Like the real gold standard.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I get what he's saying, which is that it can be very confusing to people that might, as you said, Ben, go onto Google, see that it's got a 60% rating or even like a 40% rating and say, oh, it's probably crap. But it's, I mean, as far as I, consider it, it's just a little bit of information that kind of gives me a bit of direction around about the film. It's not the end all or be all, because as you said, we both loved A Cure for Wellness, and that got panned on Rotten Tomatoes.
I've always thought film ratings are strange. The podcast Strikes Back doesn't involve in that kind of behavior. Film's a very complex medium, and I think putting just a value or a number on it, it's a nice sort of, as you said, points you in the right direction, gives you a little bit of an idea about the film, but to judge it on the level that Brett Ratner's kind of saying, I think he's just taking it too seriously. Like, I often, when I look at a film, I look at Metacritic as well, and I'll look at IMDb, see what the Nolan fanboys thinking. But these different sites, they indicate different things, and you can kind of get a pretty good sort of amalgamation and feeling of what the film is kind of going to be like.
That's how you use Rotten Tomatoes and film criticism, though, and you're a top-notch film consumer, George. But yeah, most people will just look at the number and perhaps miss out on seeing something that they might have loved. So I don't think he's really wrong about that.
And I've mentioned this before. You're never going to escape that with film criticism, because there will always be people that don't like films and people that do like films. You know,
That's deep.
Thank you.
It's true. Everyone has an opinion.
And I've mentioned before that the day that that sunk in for me was when I read a review that said Pirates of the Caribbean 4 was, this great film. I think they gave it like 4.5 out of 5, and I was like, well, the hell is this guy talking about?
Another Johnny Depp reference, Connor.
Yeah.
There we go.
How odd. But I mean, if someone can like a film enough to put it down like pen to paper, then it really does show that, there's a movie out there for everyone. It's a nice little thing to end it on.
Mic
Beautiful.
drop.
Slap that on the back cover.
So what have we got up next, Connor?
Story number 5, cable casting. Earlier on the week, it was cited.
Who next?
It was cited that Michael Shannon and Brad Pitt, I don't know if they're in talks or, how far down the process they are, but those were the names thrown into the already quite busy pool of
Stephen Lang, Pierce Brosnan.
Even, I think it was today or yesterday, they released, or not released, there was some leaked concept footage, or not concept footage, sorry, concept art.
Yeah.
Of Cable with Brad Pitt's face on it.
Yeah, it looked very resemblant of Brad Pitt. Another leak from Deadpool. It's a pretty good strategy that those guys are using, because they leak a lot of stuff. I'm interested. I really like the look of his design in that concept art. He had a very angular kind of... he was very muscly as well, but...
I like the way his pecs looked.
No, but when you think of Cable, you think of a big hulking metallic beast of a man, and Brad Pitt's not necessarily the first guy you think of in that role. But I really like the look of it, and I think it'd be a cool choice.
I think Michael Shannon is perfect for this. He's such a big, weird dude. I think he'd be the perfect straight man to Deadpool's wacky zaniness.
I know next to nothing about Cable or Deadpool apart from the film and stuff. So I don't come at this with knowing what kind of Cable's character is. But in terms of actors, I don't care which one it is. I think they would both be awesome in it. Very rarely do I look at those two as being the weak links in films.
I think Michael Shannon should be in everything, so I don't really care about Cable either. Like, just put him in the movie. He can play Deadpool for all I care. Get rid of Ryan, just put him in more things.
That would be... You can't do that.
Yeah, no, okay. Sorry.
Cable is the son of Cyclops.
Did you just Google that? He's sly son of a bitch.
Of course you can see I'm Googling it, you dickhead.
Just off the top of my head, the last thing I remember... pretty sure he's Cyborg's son, yeah. Just dropping some knowledge.
And his mum's also Madeline Pryor, who's Jean Grey's clone, and he's the half-brother of Rachel Summers. Well,
wow.
So he's pretty amongst it in the X-Men...
Such fun facts.
Family tree, I guess you would call it. I don't know.
Thank you, George, for that.
So he's James Marsden's kid.
There you go.
Up next, we've got Netflix releases the live Death Note trailer.
The live
action, yeah, the live Death. It's not live. Sorry, live action Death Note trailer.
This looks so cool and really represented the anime really well, I thought.
So I didn't know this was anime the first time I didn't know it was based off anime the first time I saw the trailer.
Yeah, so I think this was based originally. The anime is based off a manga. I mean, they normally usually, generally are. So a very diehard fan base. I think there's been a Japanese TV series adapted off it. So this is the sort of Americans' first crack at. There isn't a live action TV series of this, is there?
I think there's movies. I think there's some movies in like Japanese movies of it.
Yeah, I love the look of the trailer. It had a very dark vibe. The concept of the book is really intriguing. So good on you, Netflix. They've got a bunch of productions coming up. So I think good on them. Let's see what happens.
Good on him.
Have a go, mate. Have a good go.
Netflix really appreciates
Good to
your
see the little
endorsement.
guy. Good to see the little guy getting some time.
But I think this is cool that we're seeing some of the Japanese anime that's coming over now into. I mean, say what you will, it's going to change the original content. It always does. And for a lot of people, that's not going to be a good thing. But I like that it's becoming a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, totally. We could finally have some more Dragon Ball evolutions on our hand.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Ghost in the Shell is good. I mean, that's a statement, right? And you should also go check out our Ghost in the Shell movie review. That's up right now. All the productions coming up, they're throwing some money down, Netflix. You know, they're throwing down 90 million for Will Smith's Sprite, 60 mil for War Machine, 100 mil for The Irishman.
Apparently over 100 mil for The Irishman.
Well, there you go.
That they're sinking some proper money into that.
That's some dollars.
Yeah, and I think for this one, I read that it was $40 to $50 million for a Death Note, which for a kind of, as far as I'm concerned, like a no-name brand. Death Note. Well, had you watched the series?
No, I haven't watched it. No, I'm well aware of it.
I wasn't even aware of it, and I don't think a lot of people would be aware of it.
I think a lot of people in certain circles are very aware of Death Note.
People that enjoy anime are going to know it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
which is a lot of people.
How have we not even mentioned Willem Dafoe?
Oh,
like that's the only notable thing about this story.
By all means, bud.
But do you know who he's playing, or?
Yeah, you know the big demon guy. I don't know anything about Death Note. I know Willem Dafoe is playing the big demon guy,
Nice.
which is inspired casting because he's the creepiest man on earth.
Great casting.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I pretty much love anything that he does. Him and the Boondock Saints.
You would like the Boondock Saints.
I do like the Boondock Saints. Not because it's a good film, but it's one of those guilty pleasure films. That's just, I'll chuck it on, I'll enjoy it. His character is cool, it's fun. I also watched the second one.
Oh boy.
There's a ban on mentioning that film on the
podcast. Next story, David Goyer in the talks to direct Green Lantern Corps.
Never gonna happen.
Are you making that statement here now?
$100. No, I'm not a betting man. I've had problems in the past. That movie's not going to happen. Green Lantern Corps? No way.
I mean, I hope it doesn't happen.
I'm still skeptical Justice League Part 2 is going to happen, so I don't know.
That's off the cards.
Huh?
They've gone rid of Justice League Part 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
They've done heaps of rearranging.
God damn.
Announcing, throwing away.
Madness. Pandemonium.
Yeah, there is going to be a Green Lantern Corps film. It's going to have Hal Jordan and the other dude.
John Stewart.
Yeah, so it's going to have both the Green Lanterns, which is a cool decision. I think it's definitely going to happen. I'm not sure about David Goyer, though.
So I actually looked up his writing credits and directing credits. He's only directed, from what I can tell, 4 films. And the most notable of that one is Blade Trinity. So let that sink in. Zigzag, The Invisible, The Unborn, and Blade Trinity. Not something that I would call as like a huge pedigree for directing. However, writing, and this is the thing that I thought was really interesting. In the same year, he both wrote Jumper and The Dark Knight. That is an interesting credit for 2008.
What a resume. He's notorious for having like one of the most eclectic up and down movie careers of anyone out there.
But he's had a long-standing relationship with DC. With since Batman Begins.
He's been attached to just a lot of bad comic book movies and The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And
he's also been attached to good ones.
This always happens with these movies when they just don't know what they're doing with it. The writer will step up and be like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'm going to direct it," and then the just falls apart. It never happens.
So he's writing and producing this, and then potentially directing.
Yeah. Do you guys want to see a Green Lantern movie? Another one? Did
No,
you guys see
I
the
don't.
last one?
I do want to see another one because the last one was a fucking abysmal film.
It was real bad.
And that ups your appetite for another one, right?
Because I know the property's cool. I think
it, though?
Green Lantern, if you do it well as a mystical space opera, I think it can be done really well.
Possibly. His powers don't translate amazingly well to live action film, I think.
I would agree with that. Maybe you've got to keep a tighter lid on it. Maybe it's got to be a little more tangible.
Should be grounded and
But
gritty.
how do you do that?
I don't know. Instead of him being able to make a roller coaster or something, maybe you keep it to weapons or something more practical. I'm not sure how you would do it. Just making it seem a little more relatable rather than wacky and crazy and giant fists punching things.
Yeah. I feel if you took his powers and made them practical, it would just be like the movie would be over. If you think about how many problems could have been solved with him just like either grabbing someone with the powers instead of like making this convoluted, strategy to get them with trains and planes and shit like that. I mean, it kind of feels like an overpowerful character. Like if he's too practical with those powers, then it kind of feels like Superman. Like you're just going to be able to do anything.
I think they should go the other way and just play into the wackiness of the character and the world. Just go full crazy sci-fi nonsense with it. Do Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's an interesting character and I'd like to see him done well. And maybe the way to do him is to do him all comical and wacky and crazy. So I just want to see the world building that could potentially happen with that film.
Warner Brothers, get Superman right, get Batman right, and then we'll talk about these third-tier characters, all right?
This is the problem. They already had Batman right.
Mm.
The Dark Knight, I thought, was a good film. Like, I'm not considering the trilogy, really. They had the first two films. I felt like Batman was done right. That's the amount of Batman I need for the next 10 years. I'll still watch Ben Affleck's Batman. Now that it's there.
If that one happens.
But I might enjoy it. Who knows? But I feel like that's probably enough. I've seen enough of Superman as well. I didn't see a good one. But like, I just don't want to give it another try. I'm kind of done with DC in general.
Yeah.
Well, the trailer is going to be up soon, so get ready for it to be everywhere, Connor.
The new trailer for Justice League, yeah, it's coming out I think today or tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of stuff being teased for that yesterday.
Yeah. Final story.
Story.
Final story is about the Power Rangers franchise.
5 sequels announced.
5 sequels announced.
Not announced.
No, not announced. The directors come out. The directors come out and said that when they brought him on, they had a plan, like a 6-movie arc planned.
You heard her for you heard.
You heard her.
Welcome to our drunk episode.
Yeah, we had a big one last night.
We're going to do a drunk episode one time.
Yeah.
Now we've got a Power Rangers review coming up later, so we'll save our thoughts on the film for that. But the news of 6 of these makes me nauseous. Anytime anyone talks about this many sequels this early in the game, I'm just like, this is such bullshit.
What franchises would you actually want to see? I mean, there's James Bond is the one I can think of where if they plan 6 years ahead, I'd be like, yeah, sweet, fair enough.
But James Bond, they don't do like arcs like that, like the almost standalone movies. You always know that there's going to be 20 more James Bond movies. That's fine. Everyone's dealt with that. But I mean, Star Wars is probably the only one get away with it and say, we have a 6-movie series planned. We've got all this stuff ready in advance.
Marvel, I guess if you kind of think about the overall franchise,
yeah,
I suppose they can pull it off. They didn't. I mean, it's not early on for them, of course.
I mean, there's been a trend for doing trilogies. For example, Terminator Genesis. They said, "Oh yeah, this is part of an upcoming trilogy," which is
boo
canned. But now they're saying 5 films. That's crazy, man. Like, let's do a trilogy first, then we can expand from there. One thing I will say about Power Rangers is stay for the end credit sequence, because there's a cool little thing there.
Yeah, so they're already clearly trying to set up one sequel, which, yeah, let's start with that.
I think 5 is too many. I think there's very few franchises that can pull it off.
And we had a couple other little...
honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions, that's the one.
Yeah, the new Alien Covenant poster came out. Looks sick. Yeah, it looks like it might delve in a little bit to the mythology of aliens. We got a little taste of it in Prometheus, where they showed us kind of that there's obviously a culture around it. Yeah, I thinks it looks good.
Did you like the poster, Ben?
Yeah, it's great. It's it's a bit of a wank. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a poster.
It looks very biblical in a way. It reminded me that the fact that this film was going to...
I love that chapter in the Bible with all the xenomorphs. That's the best bit. Why do
how
they
much
never
you've
bring
read
that one up at church? It's the best part.
It did. And this film was at one point supposed to be called Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
Alien Paradise. So I didn't, it had that kind of quality to it.
Biblical might be going a bit far, but
Maybe not biblical. Maybe if I should rephrase, I would say sort of historical, sort of sculptural art.
yeah, fair call. The other one is Chris
Fuck
Evans.
you guys. No, seriously. I'm coming for you, all right?
I'm sick of talking about Alien.
I'm just very impressed that you managed to read that deep into a poster.
Dude, that's what we do here.
That's the job.
The other one is Chris Evans is open to continue to play Captain After All.
Captain After All.
Captain After All. Not Captain After All.
Captain America After All. But there was a report that said he was going to hang up the
Helmet?
shield.
The shield, yeah.
The boots.
Whatever that guy has.
And after Infinity War Part 2. But he maybe won't be. He'll do a Downey Jr.
Surely everyone's going to be out after Infinity War.
You reckon?
Yeah.
How much are they going to have to pay these people after that? Come on. They're already given Downey Jr. $80 million a film.
Look, with this one, I don't care whether he sticks around. I mean, I've gotten my fill of that character. If the MCU keeps on going on.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
I know you haven't.
I mean, if he sticks around, I'll watch it. Don't get me wrong.
Captain America could have been an absolute disaster. If you think about Captain America 10 years ago, how he was just this fuddy-duddy Marvel superhero, and how they've been able to build this Captain America brand and make him this incredible superhero and an absolute fan favorite. I mean, Civil War absolutely murdered it at the box office. Well, I think it was like 1.2 billion. So he's a A-list superhero now, and I think a lot of that has to do with Chris Evans. And I think he does the character. He really represents the character, and I'd like him to stay around forever.
I'm not saying
never leave.
Chris Evans doesn't do a good job. What I am saying though is that I have had my I could do with different characters in the MCU. I could have that little arc that they hopefully will finish in Infinity Wars 2. Just have that as is, and then maybe start a new chapter. I think it could be good. I'll just get rid of most or all of them.
This stuff is all in flux, though. None of them are ever really going to go away. They'll, it's like in the comics. One of them will die, and they'll come back in 20 years to reprise the role. It'll be some huge, amazing thing.
The other honorable mention, these don't turn out to be really honorable mentions because we end up getting into discussions anyways. The other honorable mention is Mulan is not a musical.
I think this is cool. I think this one could be a really more grounded, historical, live
gritty.
Sort of vibe.
Should be gritty.
Yeah,
not gritty.
The gritty Mulan reboot.
Grounded
Every
is
reboot.
different to gritty. I will go and say that in some way,
Big claim.
in some shape or form.
I'm 50-50 on this. Half of me is really excited to see that story told in a bit of a different way, with a little less levity. So I guess you might be able to say gritty. But I just think that would be cool. I'd love to see that kind of badass woman protagonist going out into that setting, into that story. I think it'd be really cool. On the other hand, Mulan does have some fairly iconic musical numbers for people that enjoy Disney. I think they would be taking a fairly big risk to remove those. I mean, ultimately, the songs will always be there. Like, they'll always have the original.
No, Disney. They also said they plan to erase all copies of the original film.
Men in Black guys coming around,
Yeah.
wiping people's memory.
Look, I would like to see that actually, as long as it has Eddie Murphy in a really cheap dragon costume. I think that would kind of make it work.
100%.
No, I saw Beauty and the Beast the other day. I didn't really care for it at all. I watched the original last week sometime. It's not one of my favorites. I love Disney animated movies. I didn't grow up with Beauty and the Beast, so I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. I thought the movie version was just really overblown, and man, the green screen in that thing was, ooh. But
when
yeah,
she's on the hill.
oh man. But yeah, it's really sapped any enthusiasm I have for the other 10 live action adaptations they have in development at the moment.
Did you like Jungle Book?
No, I mean I liked it just fine. Thought it was fine.
That sounds like a 50%er on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, so that's top 8 of the week. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. So yeah, we're on iTunes, we're on YouTube. Please subscribe. We have our Power Rangers movie review coming up on Tuesday, and then later in the week we'll be releasing our review for Life. So tons of content coming. Please comment, like, and we will be back next week for another episode of Ta Bit.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck was that?
Love the new theme song. Bye.
Bye.